Welcome to Demystifying the Metaphysical, here to help you find more compassion in your life. Today, we're going to be looking at the line of happiness and line of health on the hands. If you haven't already, check out the video on signs palm readers look for a general overview on what to look for when looking at the lines on the hands. Link on the top right or in the description below. Let's start off with the line of happiness or line of Apollo, its official name. It's called the line of Apollo because it runs in line and ends under the ring finger. Just in case you didn't know, in the world of palmistry, the ring finger is called Apollo. Out of the 6 main lines on the hands, this is the rarest line to find in its full form, which would run from the wrist all the way to the base of the ring finger. The line is only present in 10 to 15% of hands. When the person has a full-length Apollo line, they likely have a soul of an artist. The presence of the line shows whether or not we have creative abilities. The likelihood will be recognized for our achievements, our capacity to be happy, and our ability to put energy into our life. If the line is clear, the person will have an easygoing nature, a great reputation, will be capable, and have luck during the periods in which the line is present. The timing on the line is exactly the same as that of the fate line. Check out the fate line video if you haven't already, link in the description. The Apollo line and fate line act as sister lines for each other, meaning if one is absent or defective, the other line, if present and clear, can pick up the slack. The 2 hands on the right show how we typically see the line of Apollo. The hand in the middle has a line that starts from the headline, while the hand on the far right has an Apollo line that starts from the heart line. When the line of Apollo is present at the base of the ring finger where the orange circle is, the characteristics of an Apollonian will be present in the person's characteristics even if the line is not of full length. Most likely the person will be creative, optimistic, and might even be a risk taker. And depending on which world dominates, their creativity could be expressed in different ways. Let's first take a look at the 3 worlds of the fingers and hands. Looking at the 3 sections of the fingers, does any one of the 3 sections stand out to you? Meaning, is any one section of the finger thicker and or longer than the other sections? Or are all 3 sections pretty even? If the base of the fingers, the green section, is the thickest and or the longest, the person lives in the physical world, meaning they're more in touch with things that exist in the 3D space, as opposed to people who live in the mental world, where they're more in touch with their thoughts and or imagination. The second way of looking at which world dominates is by looking at the hand as a whole. Which section stands out to you? When both of the fingers and hands point to the same world, then it'll be easy to tell which world you live in. But sometimes the fingers and hands will point to 2 different worlds, or you might not be able to tell because nothing stands out. Then that's probably because the person is more well balanced. If your leading world is mental, then this will bring out the creative aspects of the line of Apollo, like being an artist or a creative writer. If your leading world is practical, this will bring out the business side of the line of Apollo. It'll enhance your ability to make money either from original business ideas or from a successful career in the art industry. For those whose physical world dominates, they'll most likely enjoy being creative with their hands, like being a sculptor or a potter. We already know where the finger and mount of Apollo are. Before we look at the starting and ending points on the line, for those that are not familiar, here are the official names of the fingers and mounts on the hand. The mount of Venus represents love, passion, and enthusiasm. The mount of Luna represents creativity and imagination. As for the fingers, the index finger is called Jupiter, middle finger Saturn, ring finger Apollo, and little finger Mercury. If you'd like to learn more about the secrets revealed by the mounts on your palms, check out the video on the top right. As we saw with the fate line, the Apollo line also doesn't have a typical starting point. The Apollo line can start anywhere on the palm, but most of the time it doesn't start from the wrist as shown by the blue line. If the line starts from the lifeline or the Mount of Venus where the green line is, the person's family will have influence or is supportive of their creativity. Perhaps the person has inherited talents from their family. Rare, but if the line starts from the wrist and reaches all the way to the base of the ring finger, this person is artistically gifted. They'll have to work hard, but they will likely succeed in their creative endeavors. They might even be a gifted child actor. If the line starts on the Mount of Luna, imagination will have a big influence on the person's creativity, and their work might have an impact on the public in some way. When the line starts from outer Mars, the person will find success through perseverance and hard work. Here's an example of an Apollo line starting on the Mount of Venus on the other side of the lifeline. And it fades a bit where the red arrow is pointing before reappearing right before the heart line and continuing up towards the Mount of Apollo. An Apollo line that starts on the Mount of Venus could mean that the family is somehow tied to their creativity. On this hand, the creative talents might diminish where the line fades between the age of 30 and 40. Notice how the fate line, which can act as a sister or support line to the left of the line of Apollo, is also faded where the yellow arrow is pointing. Around the same time period, the Apollo line fades. Perhaps during this time period, the person's diminished creativity also impacted their sense of purpose. Here are some of the other starting points on the Apollo line. If the line starts off of the fate line, this will add a bit of seriousness to the character, making the person more diligent and more likely to succeed through their creative endeavors. An Apollo line that starts from the headline, where the green dot is, will mean the person has a strong motivation to succeed. An Apollo line starting from the heart line, where the purple dot is, could mean that the person will receive recognition later in life, and their success might have more of an emotional attachment to it. All achievements have a positive emotional aspect to it, but when it starts on the heart line, the success is especially near and dear to their heart. When the Apollo line starts above the heart line, around where the yellow dot is, the person will enjoy a happy and fulfilled life in their mature years. Here's an example of an Apollo line starting off of the heart line, where the blue arrow is pointing, and continues all the way towards the finger. We'll discuss the Mercury line later, but take a look at where the green arrows are pointing. This will give you an idea of where the Mercury line sits in relation to the line of Apollo. The Mercury line is usually slanted and moves towards the base of the little finger. Let's take a look at the branches off of the line of Apollo. Note that the branches doesn't have to reach all the way to the base of the finger for these characteristics to hold true. But the deeper the branch and the higher up towards the finger it moves, the stronger the characteristics will be. An Apollo line with a branch moving towards the Mount of Jupiter is a sign of a person who is a leader with great ambitions. They will also likely be charismatic and will find success in either the creative or business world. An Apollo line that reaches towards the Mount of Saturn, shown by the purple line, decreases the natural risk-taking tendencies of an Apollonian. This person's creative endeavors will have a bit more structure. A person with an Apollo line reaching for the Mount of Mercury is a business person with a creative flair, someone who will make money in the creative industry or is very creative in their business strategies. Here's an example of an Apollo line ending in a fork with the branch reaching towards the Mount of Mercury. Notice how the Apollo line is a little wavy where the red arrow is pointing. During this time period, the person may find it hard to focus, or they may be spreading themselves too thin. When we see more than one Apollo line running parallel, like the yellow lines, this is a sign that the person has many talents. This is different from having multiple lines on the Mount of Apollo like the blue lines. When there are multiple lines on the mount, the person may not be an artist themselves, but they'll be a lover of art, theater, and all things beautiful. Now let's take a look at the Mercury line. Some say that it's best not to have this line unless it's of good quality, meaning the line is clear and free of defects. But people that don't have a perfect line tend to pay more attention to their health, which I think is a blessing in disguise. This line is present in 50% of hands and is often called the health line. It says more about our digestive and liver health than someone's overall health. For that, the lifeline is the best place to look. Check out the lifeline video if you haven't already on the top right. The Mercury line also tells us about our attitude towards illness, for example, whether or not someone's a hypochondriac. It also shows our ability to recuperate and whether or not we have the characteristics of a Mercurian, like being a skilled communicator, savvy business person, or whether or not we have the ability to heal others. The timing on the Mercury line isn't as precise as we see on the other lines on the hands. The section between the wrist and the lifeline represents our younger years. The distance between the lifeline and the headline shows our middle years, and above the heart line to the base of the little finger shows our mature years. Traditionally, palmists say that the line of Mercury starts from the mount of Luna and moves towards the little finger, like what we see on the hand on the far left. But in reality, the line often starts near the fate line, or even from the mount of Venus on the other side of the lifeline. Here's an example of a very clear and deep Mercury line. Notice it's just as deep as the lifeline. This not only means the person is blessed with good health, but having a strong Mercury line offers protection to defects found on other major lines. Both the heart line and the beginning of the head line are broad and not clear on this hand. Having the clear and deep health line will be a tremendous support to this person. Now, if the hand is small, delicate, and has mostly thin lines, the deep and clear Mercury line might be too much energy for the person. In that case, the person might benefit more from a thin and clear Mercury line as opposed to a deep line like the one on this hand. A ladder-like Mercury line where the lines are broken and overlap is a very common type of Mercury line. It could mean that the person may suffer from indigestion or acid reflux. In this case, the line is a good reminder to be mindful of how our body reacts to different types of foods. If you've enjoyed the video, feel free to share, like, and subscribe. Thanks for watching and see you in the next video.